Hello, welcome. My name is James Whitcomb. I'm the candidate coach, and I just want to say thanks. Thanks for stopping by today to participate in this workshop. Now, some of our other workshops, if you've attended them previously, are on specific topics. So we run a resume workshop. We've got a workshop just on how to write cover letters. We've got two workshops on interviews, one being how to prepare for interview, one being how to specifically answer interview questions. But today's workshop's a little bit different. So it's called Job Hunting Tips in a Competitive Market. And what I'm going to do today is give you just a couple of little tips along the way across a number of different things that you can do when you're looking for work that will hopefully help to make a little bit of a difference. Because it's always competitive when you're looking for work. Now, you might have heard in the media recently that because, companies are struggling to find employees because unemployment is actually quite low, that, you're kind of thinking, well, why is it hard for me to find work at the moment? Why am I sort of struggling? Well, let me give you some comfort here, because looking for work and applying for work is always competitive. It is always competitive. You still have to be the best candidate or the best prepared candidate to get the job. So it doesn't matter whether unemployment is 20% or 4%, it is still very competitive. The difference is you're just not as competing with as many people. But it's not like you're not competing with anybody. For some of the roles that we've recruited at Smart Recruitment, where I'm a director, previously we might have got 100 applications or 200 applications. Now we're getting 40 or 50 instead. So those numbers are lower, but hey, you still have to compete with 40 or 50 people. You've got a 1 in 40 chance of getting the job. So you need to do everything you can. You need to do every little thing you can to increase your chances and increase your advantages of getting the job. So let's get stuck into it. I'm going to share my screen with you. If I do look today like I'm glancing over to the right, that's because it's where my presentation screen is. So as I said, job hunting tips in a competitive market. Let's find out what we need to do to really stand out in a competitive marketplace. Before we get stuck into it though, just a couple of housekeeping things. If I do drop out for any reason today, please stay on the line and wait for me to rejoin. It doesn't happen very often, but it might. Ask lots of questions, particularly if you're on one of our partner sites. We've got the chat function there, or if you're watching via our YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter stream, you can ask questions and we'll respond to them in live time. But also take lots of notes. So if something stands out to you today, remember how it stood out for you the first time that you heard it. Write it down, go away and put it into action. And as always, you can watch a copy of today's workshop. We're coming to you live. The workshop will be on our YouTube channel as soon as it's finished, and you can watch it again, or you can share it with family and friends who might be looking for work as well. A little bit about me, your presenter, James Whitcomb. So who am I? Well, as I mentioned before, I'm also a director at Smart Recruitment. So we're an award-winning recruitment agency, and I've been working in recruitment since 2005. Over that time, I've conducted over 3,000 interviews and over 600 group assessments, placing well over 1,000 people into work. So that's my background. That's why I'm coaching you and running this session today. And launched the Candidate Coach, the platform that we're meeting on today, in December 2019. Alrighty. 10 job hunting tips in a competitive market. I've actually thrown in an 11th one this morning, so it's actually going to be one more than you can see on the screen there. But we're going to go through 10 tips. So it's not a long workshop today. It's certainly not going to take us an hour to get through these. Some of them are quite quick, but hopefully amongst these 10 or 11 tips, there's one or two you haven't been doing. And if you can then go and do them, it's going to increase your chances of getting the job. All right. Tip number 1, find a connection and use your network. So let me ask you something. Think about the last couple of jobs that you've been applying for. Do you know anyone that works at the company where you are applying to? Now, what happens to me a lot in the recruitment process is I hear from friends after they've been looking for work for some time, and they tell me about a company that they applied to 6 weeks ago and they missed out. And I say, oh, I know some people in that company. Why didn't you tell me? I could have put in a good word for you. So, my question to you is, do you know anybody at the company that you're applying to? Have you got any connections there? Have you got any family members or friends there? Maybe it's a second degree connection. Because if you know somebody at the company that you're applying to, you should use that to your advantage by getting in touch. Recruiters actually like receiving a resume through an unusual source. It's a bit more interesting. Yes, we can get lots of resumes through Seek, but if your resume comes through a colleague of the person recruiting, it's going to come, I guess, with some extra value added to it. So, tip number one, do you know anyone that works where you are applying? If not, reach out and connect to them. You've hopefully got a LinkedIn account. Our last workshop was actually on LinkedIn, and we talked about the importance of having a great LinkedIn profile, and we showed you how you can create a great LinkedIn profile. So if your LinkedIn profile is not great, go and get it ready, but then reach out. If you can connect with that person, do so, but do so in a way that makes you stand out. All right, tip number two, use people's names in your cover letter. This one is really important. So now a lot of the time you're probably thinking, oh, James, there's no name. When I apply for a job, there's not a name on the advertisement. Well, if there's not a name on the advertisement, you can't put the name on there. So you can put dear sir or dear madam or to whom it may concern. However, you also could pick up the phone and call that company and say, hey, I'm about to apply for the accounts receivable position. Would you mind just telling me who I should address my cover letter to? Now, if that person who's reading the applications gets 50 resumes and 50 cover letters, and just one of them includes their name because you've called reception and asked, guess what? That means something. The person reading those 50 cover letters thinks, hey, there's one person here that's got my name. How did they get my name? And they're actually probably going to notice your application a bit more closely. Maybe they'll even just call you to find out how you found out their name. But it will show them that you're putting in some effort. So use people's names. If they are on the advertisement, fantastic. You've got it easy. You've just got to put Dear James into the cover letter. But if you include the person's name in the cover letter and also throughout the interview process, people are more likely to remember what you said. Now, we actually love it. Human psychology is we like it when our name is used in a positive sense. In a positive sense, when it's a parent telling off a child using their names, come here, Benjamin, it's maybe not a positive connotation. But if someone writes a letter to me or a cover letter and says, Dear James, I'm much more impressed than if it says, Dear Sir or Madam. All right. You might need to take notes, though. So particularly if you're a student and you're going to job fairs or careers fair at the moment, and you are meeting people, you're going up to the booths, what I would always encourage you to do is to take a notepad along. And so if you go up to a booth for a company and you talk to them about their graduate program and it sounds really good, write down the names of the people that you're speaking to. You can then include those names in the cover letter when it comes time to applying for that organization, and it will make you stand out. Alrighty, tip number 3. Have an achievements-based resume. So what do I mean by achievements-based resume? Well, first of all, if you haven't attended our resume workshop, I would encourage you to go and watch the recording of our latest one, which will be on our YouTube channel. And we talk about the importance, and I show you how to include achievements on your resume. But basically, what I want your resume to be is a document that sells you, it promotes you. If you've worked in McDonald's for the last 2 years, that's fantastic. But guess what? I probably know what you did in that job. So what your achievements actually tell me is how well you did it. And that's what I'm more interested in. So make sure you list achievements, 2 or 3 achievements listed for every job. And they need to be. You need to have some achievements on the front page of your resume. So change your thinking with your resume. It's not a boring academic document that just has a history of where you've worked. It needs to highlight and sell and promote you. And the best way to doing so is with your achievements being presented loudly and clearly. Everyone has the same qualifications when they're going for jobs? Well, not everyone, but most of the time. Again, particularly if you're applying for graduate jobs, everyone's got the same qualifications. It's your achievements that actually make you stand out. So go away and make your resume achievement based. Tip 4, show what you know about the company and the industry. So the second part here is probably the tip part, because you would be fairly aware that it's pretty common sense that when you're going for an interview or you're applying for a job, you do some research so that you show you know a little bit about the company. That's kind of the minimum standard. But if you want to stand out, a really good tip is to show that you are interested in the industry. You know what's happening in the market that you're going for a job in at the moment. You're interested in the goings on of the economy. But if you can specifically bring that together in your interview and show that you understand the industry, you're passionate about the industry, you're up to date with your industry knowledge, that speaks volumes to the recruiter. So when I meet a candidate and they mention it, maybe they say, they mention I read in the industry news, or I read this article about what's happening in the industry, or asks me a question around the industry trends, I think, yes, this candidate isn't just after a job. They like this industry. And if they like this industry, they're going to like working for our company. So tip number 4 is show what you know. Work it into your cover letter, work it into your interview. Show what you know about the company. Because lots of candidates do research. So if you want to stand out, your research needs to be better. Than the other candidates. So where can we go? Well, company website, careers pages, they're the first two. They're the easy ones. Press releases, annual report, and other industry news sources are where you should really be going, in particular, if you want to stand out. Tip number 4. So let me share with you a really important example. And if you've attended any of my workshops previously, you'll know what I'm talking about here. I'm going to share with you a LinkedIn post from well-known recruiter Stefan Wheeler. Now, Stefan, sorry. I just want to highlight that bottom sentence again. I'm going to read it out again. So I understand doing research takes effort and you don't even know if it'll pay off. However, that's exactly what other candidates do to get the job. And they're the ones you are competing with right from the beginning of your application. So if you don't want to do the research, that's fine. But you are competing against candidates who do a lot of research. Okay, tip number 5. What tests will you be taking? What tests will you be taking? What assessments are you going to be asked to complete? What do previous candidates have to say? Now, you can find out a lot of this information online. If you go to a website like Glassdoor or a couple of other platforms, particularly for large corporate companies, banks, and the like, candidates actually review the recruitment process. They will talk about the types of assessments they did. They will talk about the type of tests and assessments that they were asked to take. You can also ask these questions. If you're being invited in for an interview, what's the interview going to be like? What am I going to be asked? What tests am I going to take? When you know what test you're going to take, you can go away and you can research it. You can go and Google that test and get a little bit of information around how to best perform. But again, if you don't research the recruitment process, you won't know. On the flip side, how valuable would it be to know exactly what assessments you're going to be doing and what type of tests you are going to be taking, because you can then go away and practice. So research into the recruitment process because it will really help you best prepare to perform well. Tip 6. This is a big one. It's a very obvious one, but it's potentially the most important one that I'll give today, which is practicing your interview technique is the only way it will get better. Now, you already know this, right? You already know that practicing your interview technique is going to help it get better. But I would say that it is the one area where job seekers don't put in anywhere near enough practice. Let's think about your resume, for example. You spend hours, tens of hours, sometimes hundreds of hours on your resume. Your resume may have evolved from job to job, and you continue to tinker with and edit, and you read a lot and you use templates and you go to workshops. You spend hundreds and hundreds of hours on your resume and your cover letter. You eventually get a job interview, and you don't practice the questions. To me, it doesn't make sense. I think a lot of candidates don't practice questions, though, because of two things. First of all, they don't know what questions they're going to be asked. And secondly, they find it a bit embarrassing to practice. So two things here. You can ask, if you are invited in for interview, say, thanks for inviting me in. Do you mind me asking, what type of questions am I going to be asked? Now, I don't know what the answer will be here, but write it down and then go away and prepare. So if they say, we're going to ask you behavioral-based interview questions, go away and Google behavioral-based interview questions and then practice them. One great way to practice is to do what I'm doing now, talk to a camera. So set your iPhone up, get a tripod, and answer the question in front of the camera. Pretend the lens of the camera is the eye of another person. And then watch your answer back. Did you look at the camera lens the whole time? Or were you looking down at your hands? Was your body language nice and open, or were you a bit sort of closed and looking down? You must practice your interview technique. You must. You can't expect to perform well at interview unless you have practiced your technique. The best way to practice is to get somebody else, friend, family member, parent, I don't care who it is, to play the role of recruiter. Just give them 5 questions and ask them, can you ask me these questions, and practice answering. If you don't practice, you're hoping to perform well at interview. You're not preparing to. So on that note, and this is again one of the big reasons why a lot of people don't practice interview questions, is they just find the whole experience nerve-wracking. And they find it so nerve-wracking that they think, I'm not even going to prepare. I'm not even going to practice. Thanks for joining us at The Candidate Coach, Dr. Barker. Tell us a bit about your background and the type of work you do.
I am Dr. Sarah Barker. I'm a clinical psychologist. I've worked in workplace mental health with Black Dog Institute for the past 7 years.
Dr. Barker, why is it common to feel nerves when going for a job interview?
We commonly feel nervous, and I would say most people feel nervous when going for a job interview because we feel a lot depends on it and that we're going to be evaluated as well. So nerves are a very, very common response. It's really important to remember that the person who's doing the recruiting also feels nervous as well because they want to get the right person, and they're also aware that they're expecting people to come in feeling nervous as well. They know that that's a common human experience.
What can we do before the interview to help best prepare so that we're not overcome by feelings of nerves and anxiety?
To best prepare ourselves to avoid some of those feelings of anxiety and nerves before an interview, firstly is to accept, I think, that they're going to be there. And actually, a few nerves are actually helpful. They help us give our best performance, give our best answers, think the best on the spot. So accepting that there's going to be a level of nerves is okay. But I think also probably an hour beforehand or the morning before the interview, really practicing some breathing strategies, whichever is your favourite breathing strategy, to calm those nerves down, calm the system down, calm the breath down, and allow your body to relax as much as it can into the interview. I also think preparing answers and having a practice in front of the mirror of some likely answers that are going to be, or likely responses to questions that are going to be asked, can be very, very reassuring, because often the questions we predict are there. And even on the internet, there are usually lots of questions for any job that are typical questions that you can then prepare a brief response reflecting on your experience beforehand. So it's not such a test in the moment then, because you've got some preparation behind you. The other thing I think too is reminding yourself, I've got this far and this is a good thing. And, they're interested in getting to know me. I'm also interested in getting to know them, and concentrate on the relationship too and enjoy the relationship as much as you can. They're usually going to try and put you at ease so that they can see how you respond as well.
And what can we do during the interview if we feel a bout of nerves or anxiety coming on?
It's very common for us to suddenly feel overwhelmed in the moment in an interview. If that happens, take some deep breaths. It's okay to buy some time. It's okay. And also, when we take deep breaths in an interview, it's only usually us that notice, okay? So taking some deep breaths can really be helpful. And even saying to the interviewer, could I just take a moment here just to pause and gather my thoughts? And then just breathe, okay? And then when you're ready, come back and say, I'm ready to continue on. And that's a fine way to manage nerves during an interview. One tip that I think is a really useful one is to have a practice of your responses to the likely questions in front of the mirror. Something you might notice is that the questions you're feeling more confident about, you'll smile more, you'll be more relaxed, you'll, strut your stuff a little bit as you respond. You'll notice too, the questions you feel less confident about, you might stop smiling or your face might change. Those questions are the ones you need to practice a little bit more at, and remind yourself of your confidence with that, or prepare your answer so that you do feel more confident, because your face will actually tell you in the mirror, and that can be good preparation for the actual interview of knowing where to focus on in feeling more strong in your responses. In summary, nerves and anxiety for interviews can be partially managed and avoided by preparing beforehand, using our breathing exercises and techniques to reduce stress so we're going in feeling calmer, and also during the interview by practicing those same skills. Often when we're nervous, we stop breathing or we breathe very shallowly. So if we start noticing ourselves doing that, really being conscious of our breath and paying attention to it and allowing that to carry us through.
Thanks for watching today, and we hope this has helped you best prepare for your next job interview. Good luck. Question for you. Who would you rather work with? Somebody likable or somebody unlikable? Well, it's a silly question, it really isn't, because the answer is obvious. We want to choose the person on the left. We all want to work with somebody who is likable. So, tip number 8 for you is actually to be likable. When you're going for a job interview, the person that's interviewing you is potentially thinking to themselves, do they want to work with you? This job might be sitting next to them. So they're thinking, do I want to sit next to this person for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 48 weeks of the year, the next 3 years? Do I actually want to do that? Is this person coming across as a type of person I want to be around? Now, it doesn't sound very technically appropriate for a job interview, does it, to be likable? But we are all humans. It's within our nature to feel like this. So you need to be likable simply because it will increase your chances of getting the job. Tip number 9. Tip number 9. Ask great questions. Ask great questions. I talked before about the importance of going away and doing some research into your industry and company. Use that research to ask questions, because at the end of every interview, the person's going to say to you, do you have any questions at all for me? Now, when I ask that to a candidate, do you have any questions at all for me? If they say, oh, no, you've answered everything that I wanted to know, I think that's really bad. That's really bad. You should have come prepared with a couple of questions. So what I recommend is to write down 6 questions, and you can take them written down. You wouldn't ask 6 questions, but you want 6 written down, because if you only take 3 and a couple of questions are answered, you'd be stuck with nothing. So prepare in advance some questions, but into those questions, work your research into them. So if you've gone away and researched the company and you've found some interesting information, base one of your questions around that information. You're using that question to show off a little bit, to show you've done some research, but it will make the recruiter think, wow, this person's really done their research. And that's a great question. I actually am really impressed when a candidate can ask me a question that I don't know the answer to, because they've done more research than me. Don't ask about the salary or the location. Don't ask those basic things. Use this as an opportunity to really stand out. Tip number 10. Positive, responsive communication. I cannot tell you how often it is difficult for me to reach a candidate. I will be calling candidates today who have applied for a job yesterday who won't answer their phone and won't call me back. Make sure you have an active voicemail. Make sure I can leave you a message if you can't answer. Make sure you call back as soon as you possibly can. Answer the phone positively, professionally, and expect that that phone call is going to be from a recruiter. Show interest in the person you're meeting beyond what's on just the careers page. So ask them about themselves. Why do you like working here? Tell me a little bit about your journey. It helps to build rapport and build a connection, and it makes you more likable. Ask for honest feedback. There's absolutely nothing wrong with actually saying at the end of the interview, do you mind sharing with me how I performed today? I'd really like this job, so I'd be keen to know. If the recruiter says, oh, look, I can't, I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to, that's fine. But they might actually answer the question and give you some great insight. Either way, what you're showing is that your performance at interview is important to you, and that's because you want the job. So have a thankful attitude when you're leaving. Thanks for speaking with me today. Whether it's on the phone, thanks for speaking with me today. Thanks for meeting with me today. Thanks for taking the time to look at my application. Polite, being positive, it actually can make a big difference. All right, in tip number 11, know how to perform well on video interview. So this one is super important at the moment. Super important, because the majority of interviews are being done via video.
Hi job seekers, James here from The Candidate Coach. One of the most common questions we've been receiving lately is around how to best prepare for a video interview. Due to the circumstances over the last 12 to 18 months, video interviews have become the most common way of meeting a candidate, replacing the in-person, face-to-face interview. So here are my top tips for what you need to do to make sure you are best prepared and presenting yourself as well as you possibly can when your interview is over video. So there's 4 main things that you really need to consider. The first thing is camera height. This is the biggest mistake that a lot of people make, is getting the height of their camera wrong. If you've got a laptop, for example, that is sitting on a desk, you need to lift it up. The camera should always be at eye height. You want to imagine the lens of a camera is the eyeball of a person. So if you are looking down at your laptop or your phone, it's going to look back up your nose. So keep the camera positioned at eye height. One of the great ways to do that is to buy a tripod, something like this. So if you don't have a tripod, it's well worth going out and spending the money. Here's another one that I've got here. This one in particular I find to be really, really good. These have both got lights which help, but this one here, you can adjust it to a full standing height if you like. And it's available for not much money from a retail store. The second thing that is really important is the lighting. So having the light shining on your face. You don't want to have light shining from behind you because that creates a lot of glare. So have the light shining on your face, sit with a window facing you so that you are looking nice and clear on camera. The third thing is audio. You need to be in a nice quiet space so your voice comes across clearly, so that you don't have to yell, so that the sound is not distorted. If you are using a laptop, make sure you check about the sound direction. Some microphones only record from directly in front, and if you tilt your head sideways, the audio quality can go down quite significantly. And the fourth thing is, remember to show some personality with video interviewing. A lot of people speak to a camera in a different way that they speak to a person. So again, look at the lens of the camera and imagine you're speaking to a person. Smile, talk with your hands if that's what you do, but don't look around the room. If you're nervous, don't look down at your hands. Look at the camera and give an answer as if you were giving it to a person. This can be challenging, particularly if you are being asked to record answers and there's not actually a person that you are speaking to, but personality definitely comes through on video, so make sure you show yours. And with everything, practice. If you're not sure how you're going to present, or you think, I don't think this is going to work really well, set up your camera, hit record, and just speak to the camera. Talk, see how you look, and practice several times. This is going to be the new norm, or not the new norm, it is the norm for quite some time now, so it's really important that you understand how to best prepare for video interviewing. Good luck.
Alrighty, it's now time for the bonus tip. The bonus tip from today and for all time with looking for work and the struggles that it brings is that missing out isn't the end of the world. Missing out isn't the end of the world. I see this with job seekers all the time. They get their heart and hopes pinned on one particular job. Or they give themselves 3 weeks to find a job. And when they haven't, they think it is the end of the world. But it's not. It might mean you need to change your expectations. What I'd say is, if you're not getting close and you're not getting at least to that interview stage, you need to change something. You need to change something. So if you're sitting there today and you're watching this workshop and you have applied for literally hundreds of jobs, first of all, I really feel for you. I work with a lot of job seekers who are like that, and I understand, how upsetting it can be. But what it means is if you don't change something, the result's not going to change. If you keep on sending out that same resume in the same format, in the same way, you are only going to continue getting rejected in the same way. So you've got to change something. Even if you change something and it doesn't work, continue to change things up. Changing your cover letter, changing your resume. Maybe it's calling up about a job. Maybe it's walking in with your resume to a retail place and dropping it off and showing how well presented you are. But if you are really struggling and you're not getting anywhere, and it's been quite a while now, I would really encourage you to change things up. Now, if you're still wanting more assistance, a reminder of all the resources that are available to you on our candidate coaching platform. Look at them all here. We've got video coaching. We're actually up to 14 episodes now. I need to change this slide. We've got resume and cover letter templates that you can download, interview questions you can download. You can take practice online tests, real pre-employment tests, and get your results. We've got checklists and articles. We've got advice for executive job seekers. We've got mental health support, and we advertise all of our upcoming workshops, and all of this is for free. All of this is available to you for free. So check out your candidate coaching platform and make the most of it. Alrighty, well, thank you for attending today. We would love your feedback. We've got one more video that we're going to show you, but just before we do, please throw that link in, surveymonkey.com/r/candidate coach. In this survey, which only takes literally 2 minutes, I really just want to ask what you thought of today's workshop. Did you get any value out of it? And then we also ask, what else would you like? In our future workshops, we run 2 workshops every week. That's 8 workshops every month. We want them to be relevant for you. So in that survey, we also ask, what would you like us to provide more coaching and workshopping on? And as always, please follow our LinkedIn page to keep updated. Alrighty, we'll finish today with this video, which looks at one really important topic when it comes to recruitment, and that is looking after your mental health. So thanks very much for joining us today. We'll keep the chat function open for another 10 minutes and be in there answering questions. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for joining our workshop today. My name's James. I'm the candidate coach. Bye-bye for now.
terrific at the moment and you feel like your mental well-being has taken a little bit of a dip, please remember this is not going to last forever. There's lots you can do to manage your mental health and get back on top of it. I am Dr. Sarah Barker. I'm a clinical psychologist. I've worked in workplace mental health with Black Dog Institute for the past 7 years. I work with a lot of adults and young people, mainly with anxiety, depression, trauma as well, a range of issues, and many who are looking for work and undergoing that process of trying to find employment. Looking for work causes mental strain because our identity is tied up with our work. Work gives us meaning, it gives us purpose, it gives us company and connection. So it's stressful for lots of reasons looking for work, and it can take a toll on our mental health. It's really important for us to be aware of the signs that our well-being and our mental health might be dropping. Probably the biggest sign is changes in behaviour. So that might be changes in the way we're thinking or talking to ourselves. We might be saying things like, who would employ me? I'll never get a job. We might be really down on ourselves and really hard and critical on ourselves when normally we're not so hard and critical. We might also, in our relationships, change our behaviour. We might be more snappy or more irritable with people that we love, that normally we might be a little bit irritable sometimes, but not irritable in that way. Losing interest in things that usually sparked us and ignited us and gave us joy. So perhaps usually we like walking the dog and suddenly we start thinking, I can't be bothered walking the dog today. That sort of thing, those changes in behaviour are really significant because they tell us that something's different, and if we're noticing, I suppose, more than one of those and it's affecting the way we feel, and this is over a period of say 2 weeks or longer, then it's a really good idea to have a chat to a GP that you trust, and find out what might be going on, have a discussion and see if there's any physical reasons for that, or if perhaps your mental health and wellbeing might be able to do with a little bit of extra support, and then the GP can refer you on to see a psychologist, a counsellor, whoever is most appropriate for you. There are so many great things you can do to look after your mental health when you're looking for work, and it's really important that you do. My very top tip would be really talking kindly to yourself and being compassionate with yourself. I think when we're looking for work, we can have a lot more questions like, will I ever get a job? Will I ever be employed? It can feel like this could go on forever. So being kind to ourselves and saying things like, it will work out. There will be a day, my efforts will be rewarded. It will just take time. I just need to keep trying. Reminding yourself of your strengths. And that might even be tapping into people you love and asking them what your strengths are, because sometimes it's harder to find them when our mood's a bit low and we're feeling more worried. We can be harder on ourselves. I think that routine is really, really important to our well-being. When we're looking for work, we mightn't have such a regular routine because there mightn't be a 9 to 5 start and finish time for a job. Well, there isn't. So instead, thinking about looking for work as a job in itself can be helpful. Having a start time and a finish time can be really helpful, and some set tasks that you hope to achieve that day. Purpose is really important too. So purpose might come through routine, but it can also come through other things. Meaning's really important, and our work gives us meaning. So when we're looking for work, meaning mightn't feel like it's there as much. Part of what we can do is infuse those tasks with meaning. So I am doing these things today, I'm looking for work, and that is meaningful in itself because there's an end goal to this. It will be something that's good for me and good for the people that I love as well. Some excellent resources for looking after well-being when looking for work are the Headgear app. The Headgear app is free, it's evidence-based, it's developed by Black Dog Institute, and it is fun to use. It uses mindfulness, so a technique to really help us relax and reduce physiological arousal, which can often occur when we're feeling anxious. It's got a 30-day challenge, which is just short, bite-sized little challenges to extend your well-being and grow your well-being, and that can be really extra important when we're looking for work. There are also some really terrific resources available through the Black Dog Institute. One of them is a beautiful self-care plan that encourages you to think about your top coping tips, the things that personally work best for you, that are positive coping strategies. Another really good resource is through Beyond Blue, and they've got some excellent resources to look after mental health while looking for work, and also when people are recently out of work as well. Probably time to seek professional assistance when you notice your mood is lower and you're feeling more down than usual, when you're worrying more and perhaps worrying excessively about things that you wouldn't normally worry about, and perhaps in your relationships too, when you're more tense with people and perhaps more snappy or irritable. All of these are signs that perhaps our mood is not in the greatest space and our well-being is not in the greatest space, and that it can be a great idea then to chat to your GP, who can then refer you to an appropriate person to help you strengthen your well-being. It's very common for people to have a dip, but please know that that's not going to last forever, and that there's lots you can do through looking after yourself, but also through getting access to professional support that can really give you a boost again and get you back feeling good as you're looking for work.